So today's the day. It's the once a year PC build video that I do, and I take the best of the best that's available to me and I create something beautiful, at least for my own personal use. And we're taking the i9-13900K and the RTX 4090 and we're creating a build out of it. Not only that, we're gonna review them, right? So you're getting like 3 videos in one here, okay? This is a good deal. And the best part about it, you don't have to pay anything. Now, the case I'm using is the Corsair 5000D. I used the same case last year, but I used the airflow version, the one with the mesh front, so you get slightly better airflow. I decided not to go with that one this year because I wanted a cleaner look. This black front panel just looks very clean. Also, you can tell right here, I have white fans in my hands. This is the moment I realized I bought the wrong color. So I had to quickly run to Best Buy to buy new fans for the front, the LL120s, in a black color so that it matched the entire aesthetic. Now, instead of using my old Z690 motherboard from my 12900K, I decided to opt to get a Z790 motherboard. The reason being is the Asus Strix Z690 that I used last year had a major issue with DDR5 memory. I had 64 gigabytes installed in there and I couldn't enable any XMP profile. It would enable and then about an hour or 2 hours later, the system would completely crash. It got slightly better with updates, but it only prolonged how long it would take to crash. It never completely resolved the issue. The benefit of with the Z790 motherboards is that the DDR5 layout has been extensively improved. Not only does it handle DDR5 RAM better, but it also supports higher speeds. And on top of that, you just get more PCIe Gen 4 lanes to work with. Now for the RAM, I went with the Corsair Dominator Pros. It's a 2x 32 gigabyte kit for a total of 64. I think 64 gigabytes is plenty for me now, even though I do edit video on this. But eventually, maybe if I feel like I need it, I might bump it up to 128 gigabytes. It's installed on A2B2, which is the default setting if you're using 2 sticks. And I do love the look of this. You have a clean black side and then you have RGB on the top. The idea is to keep as much Corsair as possible so that I can adjust the RGB under iCUE instead of using different programs. It goes up to 5200 megahertz. I do have XMP enabled and it's working perfectly. As for the cooler, I'm using the Corsair 510i Elite LCD. I pretty much bought it for the LCD screen, but I also purposely went with a 360 millimeter AIO. On the previous 12900K build that I did last year, I used a 240 and it worked fine. But the problem is the fans would ramp up very loud when things would get under load. And even though the CPU stayed relatively cool, it just made for a loud environment. I wanted to avoid that, and the 360 millimeter version just does a much better job. Like when things are under load, like the fans are on, but they're not loud at all, and that makes a big difference if you're sitting right beside it. Now, the main reason I bought this cooler was because of the LCD display. Like I love seeing my temperatures while I'm using the computer. Right now you're looking at the GPU temperature. The GPU is at 53 degrees Celsius on idle. The CPU sits around 32 to 35 degrees Celsius on idle. And even when this thing is under load, it just does a good job of keeping things quiet. Now for the power supply, I went with the Asus Thor. This is a 1000 watt PSU. Technically, you can get away with an 850 watt PSU, but I wanted to go a step up to make sure that things run nice and smooth. It's a gorgeous power supply. Like I love the design detail to this PSU, even though I don't ever see it since on the back of my computer, there's technically a little OLED screen that shows you how much power is being consumed. But I do like the fact that Asus includes 2 styles of cables in the box. You can use the simple everyday PSU cables that most of you are seeing, but there's also a braided version in there if you prefer that type of aesthetic. Storage, I decided to ramp it up. For the past few years, I've been using Gen 3 drives with pretty good read and write speeds, but Corsair was kind enough to send out their M600 Pro LPX M2 NVMe Gen 4 drives. These things are incredibly fast, okay? Over 7,000 megabytes a second read and close to 7,000 megabytes a second write. They even come with their own heat sinks pre-installed on top of the drive to keep them cool. Now, because this motherboard has their own heat sinks and thermal pads already available, I had to take apart the drives and pull them out because I didn't need the pre-installed heat sinks from Corsair. At first, I was gonna leave it, like just take off the Asus motherboard version and just leave the Corsair the way it is, but it just didn't look good. Now the big boy GPU is from MSI. It's the MSI Gaming Trio. This is the RTX 4090. This is a $2,400 GPU, and it's so heavy that it comes with a bracket on the bottom of the GPU in order to prevent any sort of GPU lag. The problem is it just takes up like all of the slots. It's just crazy big, you know? And I can only probably put one more card in here. Let's say like a network adapter if I want to put a 10 gigabit NIC or something, but it just takes up the majority of the motherboard. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a good looking GPU. I was able to color match the RGB to the rest of the case, and it's been performing excellently. The only downfall to this GPU that I've noticed so far is that there is a bit of coil whine. You know, like when this thing starts ramping up, you do hear a bit of coil whine. It's not excessively loud, but if your face is beside the case, you are gonna hear it. Now, cable management is pretty good. Everything is nice and tidy, tucked away, but there's a couple of things that I am going to improve. For one, the motherboard connector is a mess. Like, there's no combs installed, so the cables look like they're all over the place. The cable mod cables that I did order never came with combs, so I have to order them separately in order to keep them straight. Even the 8-pin connector at the top, I should have just went with the regular PSU cable because these cable mod cables are quite thick, and I had a tough time getting them under the fans, and because of that they just look a bit messy. So I might pull that out and use the regular PSU cables that come with the Thor power supply. They're a lot more bendy and thin, and I think it'll just look cleaner in the end. So we got to talk performance because that's where this new system truly shines. In some areas the performance is through the roof, and in other areas it's still faster than my 12900K and 3090 Ti, but it's not as drastic as I would think. Like, if you're a developer and you want like the fastest CPU to compile code, then this is the fastest PC I've ever tested. It scored 9 minutes on my Mozilla Firefox compile test. The only computer that beat this was the M1 Ultra from Apple. And in all fairness, the only reason it did is because it's using its own flavor of Unix, and compiling Mozilla Firefox is more well optimized for that. But when it comes to single core clock speeds, Intel did make an improvement this year, but it's not as drastic as, let's say, the multi-core speeds. The multi-core speeds are through the roof. It just dominates the 12900K in a way that I didn't think was possible. Now, if you're a creative user, an editor, a video editor, a Photoshop artist, virtual effects, whatever it is, the performance jump is not as drastic. The efficiency cores don't really help out as much as the original performance cores. In fact, I didn't see that much of a boost in Photoshop work. The same holds true if you're using Premiere Pro or you're doing any sort of work in After Effects. Now, personally, I'm a DaVinci Resolve user, and I did see a performance improvement, but it was not as high as I thought it would be. The one area that it truly does make a difference, though, is gaming. Like, wow, this combination of the 13900K and RTX 4090 is beautiful. Like, I can officially declare that 1080p gaming is dead because the frame differences between 1080p and 1440p are so minimal now. It's like 10 frame difference, sometimes 3, sometimes 6. It's so minor that there's just no point gaming at 1080p anymore. The one area that this RTX 4090 does shine, though, is 4K gaming. Any optimized title is just going to be through the roof. Like, I'm playing Overwatch, right? Really well optimized. I'm getting close to 600 frames per second. Apex Legends, a very well optimized title, way over 300 frames per second. This 4090 just crushes those games. The only games we don't get those crazy high frame rates are newer titles, titles that are first person, titles where it has these extensive, beautiful worlds that requires rendering while you're moving in action. Games like Red Dead Redemption 2, games like Cyberpunk 2077. The frames are more than respectable to play at 4K on a high refresh display, but obviously you're not going to get as high FPS as a title like Overwatch, which came out years and years ago. On top of that, if you want to pick up any of these parts, there'll be links in the description down below. I'm also here if you have any questions about this specific build. But I think if you are someone who has a 12900K, this is not a massive upgrade for you. I'd probably hold out to the next generation. I think the 13900K is great for someone coming from 10th gen Intel. You'd see a massive difference in CPU performance. And if you're buying the 4000 series, you're gonna love how fast this card performs, especially when it comes to gaming. Anyways, that wraps up this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.